Welcome to Liveabroad Talks, Maria and Daniel.
Yes, thanks for having us.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. We are going to talk now about estate planning.
Exactly.
That's a very specialized issue or topic. Huh?
And very important amongst expats living in
Yeah,
Portugal.
yeah. Can you briefly introduce yourself
Obviously. So,
and tell us about your background and
no,
something more?
lovely to do that. So I'm Maria Cancio. I worked for a lot of years in the tax field. When I joined Fresh, I started to work in estate planning and real estate. And I work with Daniel, our partner in the head estate planning and real estate field. And we worked together for the last almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And normally our work consists in assisting clients, fresh legal clients, on real estate matters or estate planning matters.
Yeah, what inspired you to specialize in estate planning?
Because we start to see that the majority of our clients, they arrived to Portugal and they had wills setting up or trusts or other type of legal instruments outside of Portugal, and they assumed even living wills or healthcare directives, and they assumed that those instruments in another country will be applicable in Portugal.
Right.
And happens that they do not are applicable in Portugal. So we start to see that need to advise our clients, please make sure that instruments that you have outside of Portugal, the state planning ones, are not applicable in Portugal. So our department grow from that need from our clients.
Yeah. And your clients are mostly Americans or
We can say that majority of our clients are currently from US, but we also have clients from the UK, we have European clients, we have growing, we are assisting a lot of South African clients, for instance, so we are mainly on the US market, but growingly and expanding very fast in other countries.
Okay. Yeah, and personally, personal question.
Obviously, go ahead, I would love to answer.
Yeah. What do you find most rewarding about working with clients on estate planning?
Estate planning, for me, I'm a very empathetic person, so for me, helping our clients on a matter that it's so, because when we are managing estate planning, we are handling their family life. Obviously, when something happens to one of them, we need to take care of the loved one. So it's truly an area which I could connect deeply with our clients and assisting them in a very difficult moment that will appear ahead in their life. So for me, that personal part and the empathetic part is beautiful, and I'm so happy to, with Daniel, developing this area and to create amazing lifelong friends with our clients.
Yeah, it's a people
Obviously,
thing, huh?
Obviously connecting with people.
Yeah.
And obviously, when they are choosing a estate planning lawyer, they are giving a lot of trust and confidence, and they consider that we are good lawyers and we can assist them and we can be introduced to their family circles. So it's a very important position to be in our client's life.
Yeah. Let's talk about the estate planning.
Obviously, I would love to explore a little bit of that.
Well, the big word, what is estate planning?
Estate planning,
in short,
obviously,
of estate planning.
I will speak regarding in the Portuguese state. Normally, when something happens to each of one, obviously there are heirship rules in Portugal. So your assets will be distributed according to Portuguese law. Okay, so that is like estate planning. What happens is that in the niche that we are operating, our expat clients, they assume that the legal instruments that they have outside Portugal that manage who will inherit who will be applicable in Portugal. And happens that Portugal has different rules in cooperation with the US, in cooperation with South Africa, in cooperation with other European Union countries. So estate planning in Portugal and our work is to guarantee that the wills that they have set up in the home countries could be applicable in Portuguese jurisdiction. So our work is to guarantee and to do probably a estate planning structure that respects each one desires of who will inherit who.
Yeah, yeah, that's clear. Thank you. The practical aspects now. Could you give us an overview of the main documents and steps involved
Obviously. So
in a
normally,
proper estate planning?
when some of our clients approach us, they say, look, I have a will, or I have healthcare directives, or I have some trusts setting up. I will give the example of US. Majority of our clients are from the US. And so could you analyze that under Portuguese law and see how these documents will be applicable in Portugal? So the first step for me will analyze each document to understand the international assets, understand the assets that they have in Portugal, bank accounts, real estate, furniture, jewelry, everything, and understand the macroeconomic structure of those assets.
Yeah.
And then define how we can do this division under Portuguese law.
Right.
So first we'll analyze a portfolio, then we will understand the Portuguese portfolio, and we'll define a structure. And after that, probably we'll create a will that applies an opt-out solution, which means that each expat could apply in the Portuguese state planning the law of their home country.
Right.
Which means that in the case, if they choose to do a will with an opt-out solution, what will happen is they will attract the US law, for the US example, to apply to the Portuguese state planning, which means that they can maintain intact the dispositions that they set up in the US.
Yeah.
So
What I wonder, you're talking about assets.
assets.
It's a broad.
It's super broad. Could include
What is asset is?
real estate, could include trusts, could include like financial funds, could include jewelry, could
Also
include
immaterial activa, like a brand name.
probably that also could apply. Evidently, obviously, could also be like shares in a company, like a family company. So, could assets we use in a very generic like sentence, because it could everything that it's owned by a person.
Right. Okay.
Now I think that I will pass the word to Daniel.
Yes.
Daniel, feel free also to add your comments and your experience and expertise on this.
Okay, here we go. Then when it comes specifically to expats in Portugal, are there particular pitfalls or tips you would like to share?
Yes, of course. Maria already spoke about a lot of things, but the biggest pitfall, the biggest mistake, my personal biggest concern regarding all the expats that come here is the misconception that all state planning that was created outside of Portugal will immediately work.
Yeah.
And this is not true at all. Even if we speak about wills, trusts, healthcare directives, or the normal power of attorneys for medical or for financial purposes. This doesn't happen. They continue to be valid. That's not a question. They are valid, but unfortunately, until our days, there are no communications between countries worldwide. So what we do is we create a state planning that certifies that the needs, the intentions of the expats, of our clients, will be fulfilled following normally, because they create an opt-out solution, like Maria said, following the description that we have outside of Portugal. Normally in wills or trusts or power of attorneys, that could happen. One thing that is very important also, a lot of them, normally the ones that already created a state planning outside, have executors. This could also support the executors to come to Portugal and to make a faster procedure.
Oh yeah.
And to communicate directly in Portugal with the law firm or with the Portuguese executors.
Yeah.
So the biggest pitfall is regarding the misconception that you have it outside, it will.
So it will be okay here, and it's not the
It's
case.
not like that.
Yeah.
I just want to add something, is that normally the executor established in the international trust and wills could be the same in Portugal. We can nominate the same executors.
Yeah.
It's important to add that.
Right. I just wonder, now the UK is not part of EU
No.
anymore. So that makes a big difference.
It makes a difference like all countries because
Yeah.
all countries have different inheritance rules.
Even within the EU.
Exactly.
Yes, even
Yeah, yeah.
inside the EU, there
Yeah,
are
yeah.
different rules, especially regarding distribution. I'm not speaking about taxes because those are different from country to country,
Yeah.
but in distribution rules are different from country to country.
Okay.
And for example, the direct heirs, what are considered direct heirs in one country and in other country.
Yeah.
And even
So-
the shares for each heir.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, your USP. I call it a USP. Eh? Your unique selling proposition towards clients. Why should clients choose for Fresh Legal? What makes Fresh Legal different?
Well, it's very hard to speak about us and to try to show why they should choose us. Besides that decision, the most important thing is to get some support to do it in Portugal and to make estate planning in Portugal. To justify why they can approach us, it's very simple. We have a lot of success in many areas. And that is shown by the thousands of clients that we have in all areas. So this is a big thing when you decide to have a law firm to work with. But if it's with Fresh or with any other law firm, I think you should do it. In Fresh, what you know is about our brand. We, besides the legal knowledge, we have and we like to have direct contact with clients. We like to feel engaged. We like to feel what the client feels. And we understand their needs. And that is a very important thing. To put us in the position of the client, not the client of the person, of the family. I think that is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And one thing that I want to add
Yeah.
is that even expats that are having an amazing legal advice from another firms, they do not understand that they need to set up a will in Portugal. So some of our clients are still surprised
Yeah.
that it's needed to establish normally a opt-out solution to the Portuguese law and to a Portuguese bill and a healthcare directive. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's really a niche.
no, it's a niche.
And no, I can imagine that not every law firm has
No,
that knowledge.
And even expats, just after a couple of years, start thinking in these solutions.
Yeah, yeah.
Normally, you go to one country and you don't even
No,
think about
yeah,
this.
that's true.
Just after a couple of years, you start realizing
Yeah.
how things are and that you should do something.
Yeah.
Because if you die in Portugal, Portuguese rules may apply to your inheritance. So it's not being careful, it's just wisely choose what is the best option to you, following your intentions, your
Yeah.
needs.
Okay.
And interesting, one part that I want to add is that young couples,
Yeah.
they do not see the needs
No.
to do Portuguese estate planning, but that is important to couples that have kids. Daniel, do you
Very
want
important.
to
Yeah,
develop
yeah, yeah.
that as a parent yourself?
Yeah, as a parent and as someone that understands what is the problems
Yeah,
of
yeah.
creating a child in a different environment, it's very easy. Even with examples, you are living here in Portugal. We
Yeah.
all saw in the past week some news about a couple of kids that were abandoned by their parents. And this brings us a lot to the situation. They were not Portuguese. I don't care about the nationality, it's not what we have to discuss here, but they were not Portuguese. If they also were not residents in Portugal, but if they had state planning, a will in Portugal, that immediately establishes who is the guardian of those kids, it will be a much faster procedure.
Yeah.
We have to understand that all countries have their rules. A decision regarding kids and minors takes time. A court cannot decide in 24 to 48 hours. But if we have a will and we parents decide who the guardians should be,
Yeah.
this will make the procedure be much faster. And for me, that I'm a parent, a 9-year-old kid parent, but For me, I would not want my kid to be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months in a government institution.
A Portuguese one. It's not even home country.
Yes, exactly. It has to be a Portuguese one because it will be a Portuguese court to decide who keeps the kids.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want my kid to suffer being in an institution, government institution that for sure will take care of him, but it's different.
Yeah.
So leave it described in a will. It's always the
Better. Yeah.
the better. And
Yeah.
look, I don't see it in any other way. I think it has. We have to do, especially when we don't have family in Portugal.
Yeah. How often, should someone review or update their estate plan? It's. I can imagine it's something that you do from a certain moment, but then things are changing during your life. Maybe it's a good idea to have a regular update plan.
Yes, look, estate planning, it's not something that it will be permanent and it's fixed once and it will be forever. We can always change it, even if it is in Portugal or in any other country. That's why it's very important to establish the rules. Also, because we want to make things the simplest way possible. So if we establish in Portugal that we want an opt-out solution and we choose for another law from another country and we already have estate planning there, what we normally advise is just change the one that you have in your home country. Do the Portuguese one, establish the general rules. Sometimes, depending on situations, we could put specific rules regarding the inheritance, but just generally pass the decisions to the other will or the other state planning that you have in your nationality country. Why? Because it's much more simple to change just one. Answering your question, is not fixed, it's not permanent. We can always change each Portuguese or the foreigner one. It's always simple to change just one of them.
Yeah.
Especially after divorce, more kids.
Yeah,
and
that are the
altering
typical.
events,
Yeah.
obviously. So be aware of that.
Yeah.
It's important to update on those life matters changes.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine that it's now 2026 that you have a kind of automatic tools to say to the clients, hey, hello, it's 1 year ago that you have established your estate planning. Maybe it's time to review. Is that something that is part of your service? A kind of follow-up,
Look, we don't like to pressure clients. It depends on the client that we have. If a client specifically speaks with us and says he has that intention, okay, we contact. If a client, it's client also from other areas inside fresh legal group like taxes, like real estate, like immigration for his family. Whenever we know that there are some changes in the family, in all the background, all the support that they have here, we advise maybe it's time for you to change something in your estate planning. But generally, we don't do it just because we want to push. Normally, it's the client that contacts us in a different situation that contacts us and says, look, I need to change because this and this happened. So it's the time. We don't do that permanent follow-up unless the client asks us or it's a client from other areas.
And depends on the profile of the client.
Of course.
Understand. Of course. Are there any differences in estate planning between residents and non-residents in Portugal?
Look, the main differences are regarding the opt-out solutions and are regarding what European law allows us to do, which is to choose which law we want to be applied to our inheritance. That is the main difference. Because if you die here and you don't have anything established, your succession, your inheritance will be equal to a Portuguese one. There's no
Yeah.
major difference, at least for Portuguese assets. So there's the main difference is the possibility of choosing which law you want to be applied to your inheritance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Um, what role do international tax treaties play in estate planning for expats?
They play an important role, especially in the situations where we didn't decided what to do regarding our succession. But generally, international tax treaties decide which country has the right to apply a tax
Yeah.
to an inheritance. Who is the country that has the first right? Who is the country who has the second right? Establishes all these criteria. So it's important. Even because of taxes, and taxes, it's important, a big, not the most, but an important part of our life. Even because of that, a proper state planning should be done. And we, at least at Fresh Legal, we normally, that's why we like to be close to the client. We want to understand everything about the client because it's very important for us with all our expertise in Portugal and UK, US, and through our partners worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important for us to establish the proper plan to each client. Also, because of tax treaties and
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
general tax in Portugal.
Yeah.
So tax treaties are most very important, especially because of that, because the planning should be done in a wise way,
Yeah.
wisely.
Yeah.
Each client should have a tailored solution.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
every
That's like,
single client should be analyzed and have like a proper solution, individual one.
yeah. Okay. The final question. What advice would you give to someone who is just starting to think about estate planning?
No, the first advice is look, never think that it's not the proper time to start planning your succession.
Especially if you have young kids, minors.
Especially in that situation, because if we are speaking about expats, when you
Yeah.
come to Portugal, normally you don't have much family here, or you don't have any family here. So it's very important to establish a proper plan because of minors, but also because of the future. You can, like we've said, you can always change it, but we know what we want today. That may or may not be the same thing that we want tomorrow or in a couple of years from now. But since we can always change it, it's very important to start planning.
Yeah.
And start planning because we never know tomorrow. We never know what happens, and if we are prepared, everything will be better and it will be taken care in a smoothly way.
Yeah.
For us and for our family, and we don't want to leave problems. And when we speak about problems in Portugal, especially regarding inheritance, we are speaking about years in and years in courts, 6 7 years in litigation, and no one wants that.
At least.
At least.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's very important. What I always tell it's there is no specific time to start. As soon as possible, it's always the best time.
Yeah. Thank you for the explanation. And so, for our viewers of Liveabroad Talks who are thinking about estate planning, it may seem complicated,
Even on
but
this one has a proper lawyer to help.
right, that is exactly what I want to say. So it's very important to have yeah a partner lawyer firm. I really say partner lawyer firm to got all the information, to receive all the right information firsthand. So I thank you again.
Thank you
And
for having us and help us divulgate that the proper state planning in Portugal is so important for
yeah,
expats
yeah,
like you.
yeah. And very important to say that Daniel will be attending he will be live in our Liveabroad event.
Yeah.
And then all the
Available.
people can talk to you and ask questions directly with you. Huh?
Yeah, state planning, real estate, all those
Yeah.
matters. I'll be available
Yeah.
to speak,
Okay.
and also my colleague will be there.
Yeah.
A tax lawyer calling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Enrique.
Yeah. Okay. Very important. Okay. Thank you.
So see you in the night.
Thank you.
9th
Yeah.
of July.
Yeah. The 9th of July.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
You're welcome.